Tonight, some of the strongest words yet from the U.S. toward Russia. The Secretary of State threatening a severe response from the United States if any Russian forces enter Ukraine. As we get new details about an alleged secret Russian plot to overthrow Ukraine's government. The State Department late today ordering the evacuation of embassy family members there. The all-day manhunt for an alleged cop killer accused of gunning down a Texas deputy during a traffic stop. And New York City's mayor calls for federal help after 2 officers are shot there, 1 killed. Thousands marching against vaccine mandates in Washington today amid new predictions the Omicron wave may be nearing its nationwide peak. The IRS under fire. Tax season starts tomorrow and warnings that refunds will be delayed. How to make sure you get yours. Extreme sticker shock. Used car prices hit a new high. Dealers struggling to fill half-empty lots, making it nearly impossible for some to get a car.
A lot of people that come here cannot afford a car today.
This is NBC Nightly News with Kate Snow.
Good evening. It is hard to know what Vladimir Putin is planning, but the U.S. Secretary of State today was very clear, telling NBC News if Russia decides to move troops into Ukraine, no matter the size of the incursion, that move would be met with swift and severe action by the United States and its allies. Russia has already amassed more than 100,000 troops just outside Ukrainian territory. President Biden has said Putin has a stark choice, either de-escalation or diplomacy. Late today, the State Department ordered the departure of family members of embassy staff in Ukraine. If there is military conflict ahead between Russia and Ukraine, the head of the British military has said it may be on a scale we have not seen in Europe since World War II. Raf Sanchez starts us off tonight.
Tonight, as Russia adds even more forces to those already encircling Ukraine, the U.S. issuing its strongest warning yet to Vladimir Putin. Secretary of State Blinken promising severe economic sanctions if a single Russian soldier crosses the border.
In the event that there is a renewed Russian incursion, Russian forces going into Ukraine, there is going to be a swift, a severe and united response.
With Russian troops massing along Ukraine's northern, southern, and eastern borders, Europe now teetering on the brink of war. The State Department still weighing whether to evacuate non-essential U.S. embassy personnel. But warning American citizens in Ukraine not working for the U.S. that if war does break out, they shouldn't expect to be evacuated by the government. Britain also accusing the Kremlin of preparing to mount a coup in Kyiv. The goal of the alleged plot? To topple Ukraine's democratically elected president and replace him with an ex-politician friendly to Moscow.
This is very much part of the Russian playbook.
Russia dismissing the British allegations as disinformation. A first load of U.S. weapons arriving this weekend to help Ukrainian troops defend themselves. But President Biden under pressure at home and abroad to do more and fast. Ukraine urging Biden to impose punishing sanctions on Russia now. A call echoed by both Republicans and Democrats in Congress.
I believe that we need to act now.
Tonight, Ukrainian volunteers arming themselves and preparing for the worst.
And Raf joins me now. Raf, what do we know about the U.S. family members being told to leave now?
Yeah, Kate, in just the last few minutes, the State Department ordering the families of U.S. embassy staff in Kyiv to leave the country because of the threat of invasion. They're also saying non-essential embassy staff can leave if they choose to. Kate?
All right, Raf Sanchez, thank you. It has been an especially violent weekend for law enforcement officers in this country. At least 3 gunned down in the line of duty. 2 have died, and now the search is on for one of the suspects. Here's Kathy Park.
Tonight in Houston, the manhunt intensifying for the suspect who shot and killed Corporal Charles Galloway after an early morning traffic stop.
Witnesses described the suspect as a Hispanic male, said that he got out of his vehicle and immediately fired upon the deputy multiple times.
Authorities now looking for a white Toyota Avalon, what they believe could be the suspect's car.
What we are seeing on what appears to be a regular basis on the streets of Harris County has got to stop.
This tragedy comes less than 2 days after a gun battle in New York City killed NYPD officer Jason Rivera and badly injured Officer Wilbert Mora, who was fighting for his life. They were responding to a domestic disturbance call Friday night at a Harlem apartment when police say the accused suspect, 47-year-old LaShawn McNeil, fired multiple times when the pair approached.
We can't continue to allow violent shooters to remain on the street. We need to collaborate with city, state, and federal entities the way we did during 9/11.
This latest violence brings a tally to 5 NYPD officers shot this year. Tonight, as communities in Texas and New York mourn the men who died in the line of duty, we're learning about who they were behind the badge. 47-year-old Corporal Charles Galloway is described by colleagues as a beloved mentor.
His role was taking a lot of these young officers who were sworn in and mentoring them, teaching them what it takes to be a safe, to be an efficient officer.
22-year-old Jason Rivera said he joined the NYPD to strengthen ties between law enforcement and the community. His positive spirit captured in this 2017 message to students.
Stay strong, do good in your schools, and trust me, you'll be finished soon. It goes by like that, all right?
And Kathy joins us now live from the police precinct in Harlem, near where Friday night's shooting took place. Kathy, any update on the second officer who was shot?
Well, Kate, we learned that Officer Mora was transferred to another hospital tonight. He remains in critical condition. The mayor says that he is fighting hard and holding on. Meanwhile, there is a growing memorial outside this police precinct. This community has been shaken by this violence. Kate?
Yeah, undoubtedly. Kathy, thank you. Protesters from across the country marched on Washington today, voicing their opposition to COVID vaccine mandates. It comes as a new NBC News poll shows Americans losing confidence in the president's virus response. Josh Letterman has more from Washington.
Tonight, the vaccine battle reaching a fever pitch in the nation's capital.
If there is risk, there must be choice.
Thousands rallying on the National Mall for the Defeat the Mandates protest, featuring some of the nation's most prominent anti-vaxxers.
Tried to get a burger last night. We got turned away because we didn't have a proof of vaccination card.
I'm not anti-vax. I'm fully vaccinated, but not this vaccine. Main reason being is because it's quote-unquote experimental.
That's not true. COVID-19 vaccines are fully approved, more scrutinized for safety than any vaccine in history. Supporters say mandating vaccines is the only way to get life back to normal and to protect those most vulnerable. But a new NBC News poll shows deep pessimism that may be hampering the vaccine effort. 7 in 10 Americans believe the country's on the wrong track, and 53% disapprove of President Biden's handling of COVID, his worst numbers yet. And just 45% say they're vaccinated and boosted.
Everybody wants to say we're extremists, and all I can say is we're living in extreme times.
Mr. Biden suffering yet another blow to his vaccine push on Friday. His vaccine mandate for federal workers blocked in court.
Obviously, we are confident in our legal authority here.
Across the U.S., a tale of 2 pandemics. One showing glimmers of hope in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic as cases plummet in areas where Omicron may have peaked. In New York, once the nation's COVID epicenter, the governor citing a 66% drop in just the last 2 weeks.
This is extraordinary progress.
But in the South and the West, where Omicron hit later, a different story entirely. One of cases surging, setting new records and overrunning hospitals. But Dr. Anthony Fauci says he's hopeful the rest of the country will soon see a turnaround, possibly by mid-February.
We don't want to get overconfident, but they look like they're going in the right direction right now.
There's a big caveat. Fauci predicting more pain and suffering in areas where fewer people are vaccinated and boosted.
And Josh joins us now from the National Mall. So, Josh, was this protest against the vaccine itself or targeted more at the mandates?
Well, they say it's about the mandates, but the speeches today were filled with misinformation about vaccine risks. And we asked rallygoers whether they themselves were vaccinated. All but one of them told us they weren't. Kate?
All right, Josh, thank you. Believe it or not, tomorrow is the start of tax season, the first day you can file with the IRS. But there are warnings tonight that the agency is so overwhelmed and understaffed, your refund could take a lot longer to get to you this year. Monica Alba has the story and 3 things you can do to help get your refund faster.
When tax filing season kicks off on Monday, Ethan Miller will be ready earlier than ever.
It's a level of concern that I haven't had in the past.
Eager to file online to avoid a long delay for a refund.
I hope I'm not in the group of people who are waiting months and months.
Like millions of Americans who are still waiting for their 2020 payments, including Sydney Rodriguez.
I'm newly married. I have some student loan debt. And it's just something that I could use right now to alleviate some of the anxiety.
The main reason why? The IRS is simply overwhelmed and understaffed, processing returns with a shrinking workforce and a reduced budget. Treasury officials point out that fewer than 15,000 employees were available to handle 240 million calls at this point last year. That's one person for every 16,000 requests. The White House, placing blame on both the COVID pandemic and the previous administration, acknowledged the severity of the situation Friday.
The IRS right now has an unacceptable backlog, and that customer service that people are receiving is not what the American public deserves, and the president is very mindful of that.
Calling on lawmakers to act and fund the IRS with $80 billion needed to ease the bottleneck and address staff shortages.
What can Americans do now to prepare? Consider hiring a professional if you think you need help. Make any IRA contributions before the tax deadline and do this relatively early in the cycle so that you can file electronically with direct deposit and avoid any issues of getting paid your tax refund.
Monica joins me now. Am I the only person who hasn't done any of those things yet? Monica, remind us the filing deadline is a little later this year, right?
Exactly, Kate. April 18th for most taxpayers, a few days later due to the Emancipation Day holiday here in Washington. Remember, for the last 2 years of the pandemic, the deadline got pushed back months, but for now, the IRS says that won't be the case for 2022. Kate?
All right, Monica, thank you. The rare winter wildfire now threatening an iconic California landmark, plus the astonishing price hike for used cars, now higher than ever. We'll tell you what's driving up the cost. Crews in California are battling a rare winter wildfire tonight. It's already scorched more than 1,000 acres near Big Sur along the state's central coastline. It's also shut down portions of historic Highway 1 near the landmark Bixby Bridge. Hundreds of residents have been ordered to evacuate, but calmer winds today are helping crews make some progress against that blaze. Now to the skyrocketing prices for used cars, rising faster than almost any other product. It's a major roadblock for consumers who need affordable transportation. Rahema Ellis now on what's driving those huge price hikes.
Normally the lot would be 2 lines.
Amir Youssef sells used cars in New Jersey, and the past 2 years he's had less to sell. He blames COVID for accelerating the shortage. Before the pandemic, this lot was typically packed with about 120 used cars. Today, there's only 45.
We are paying around 30% more for the same car that we used to buy before the pandemic.
You have to pass that on to the...
Absolutely. Yes.
Nationwide, the price of a used car has skyrocketed 37% in the past year. The average cost soaring above $28,000 for the first time ever.
Everybody's frustrated.
It's a shortage of cars.
In West New York, New Jersey, a smaller dealer, but the same story.
It's got 120,000 miles on it.
Nick Constantino has been selling cars at this corner lot for nearly 60 years. His fleet is older with a lot more miles, but like many other dealers, he also has less to sell.
All the years that I've been in business, these last 2 years are the worst years I've ever seen.
And he says that's hurting business and the lower income buyer.
A lot of people that come here cannot afford a car today.
That's a hard reality for John Cook and his wife in Alexandria, Indiana.
We don't have that nest egg.
No nest egg to replace their 1990 Subaru that was totaled in an accident. He needs a car to help care for his 5 grandsons.
I didn't expect it. I expected a premium price. I didn't expect it to be outside, especially on fixed income.
Even with financing, it's a challenge, with the average monthly payment for a used car topping $500. In fact, a study this week found the average worker would need to work 5 additional weeks a year to afford the additional cost. Is there one thing or a series of that's leading to this lack of inventory in the used car market.
There are fewer semiconductor chips, which means there are fewer new vehicles being built, which means ultimately there are fewer vehicles that are being sold into the used market.
Whatever the market has to do, John just wants a car so he and his wife can get back to being involved grandparents.
And there's still some growing left to do for our kids. So we need to be there.
But in today's market, getting there in a used car may be further down the road. Rahima Ellis, NBC News.
That is NBC Nightly News on a Sunday night. Lester Holt will be with you tomorrow. I'm Kate Snow. For all of us at NBC News, stay safe.